have this picture here that these folks are having an issue with because this is so high up on the wall and they want to be able to see like this lady lounging on the couch and also see this unit, but when we place it in the hero image, it cuts off either this unit or the lady. So like you can't get both at the same time. So what we need to do is we need to reduce the amount of space on the wall to get both things kind of closer together and rather than it being so high up on the wall. So just looking at this picture, we're going to have some specific issues, and this is going to take a little bit longer than just like, cutting something out or pasting it or even being able to use the healing patch tool because of these particular issues. So one of the things you'll notice is that the wall is actually textured. So it's got like these lines going through it, and that can really mess with, like the healing brush tool or the healing patch tool and give you really bizarre results. So that's one thing that we're going to have a problem with. And then also the lighting, any lighting in any room or anything like that, it's not consistent on the wall. So we just have to be mindful of like this is lighter than what is down here. So if we sample something from up here, say we take this big swath of wall right here and we move it to here to get rid of these panels, or we need to like patch it somewhere, we're going to have to do some editing to make sure that that color matches, or else it's just going to look like it's just pasted on there. So the first thing we'll try, and I don't think we're going to get very far with it, but we'll try it and we'll see how well it will work out. We're going to try the patch tool. So what we'll do is we're going to try and take out these panels first before I go to like reducing them, because sometimes this will work and sometimes it won't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this panel, and then I'm going to select the wall over here to replace it. And the only thing about this is that I can't really line up the lines very well. So if this image is displaying bigger, it might look a little weird. But let's try that and see what happens. So we got these weird little highlights going on. If we try it over here, probably going to get the same results. We'll try it. It looked better when it was just the panel on the wall, honestly. But Photoshop is trying to make sense of what's there and trying to, match what's in the background. So these didn't come out great. Sometimes you can get away with doing that, and then you can kind of use like the spot healing brush to kind of mesh these little weird little highlights and stuff in, but I don't think that's going to work. It's just acting a little funny particularly about this. I think it's the texture in the background, so it's getting all these like really weird artifacts going on, which is not ideally what we want to see. So even when it's giving all kinds of weird artifacts because it doesn't really know how to handle the patterning on the wall. It doesn't know how to match that up, and it doesn't really recognize it as a pattern. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to try taking the tops of these and just reducing the size of these canvases that are on the wall and just making them smaller. So then I can bring this down, and then we can just try and match everything. So what I did was I already started and I brought the tops down, and then I started to bring in and match some of this background here. So I'm just trying to basically extend what we have of this wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sample this whole swath of wall here, as much of it as I can get. But we need to be mindful of perspective, because this is going to be, these lines over here, since they're closer, are going to be spaced a lot differently than what's over here. So we have to be mindful of the perspective too to try and get everything to line up. So let's see if we can get this part of the pattern to line up. So I'm going to turn off these panels real quick. This is not too bad. I actually can't really see the seam. And at least for this, we're going to be reducing it down. So any edits that we make won't be as readily apparent as they may be if we were using this like on a billboard or something like that. So we can be a little tiny bit more sloppy with the work, but we don't want to get too sloppy with it because it will be visible in reductions to a degree. So we have that one. Let's see if we can get this one to kind of match somehow. So as you can see, the wall gets darker over here. So we're kind of have to adjust for that. But first, let's get the pattern to line up. The pattern's going to be smaller on this side than it is on the other side. We're going to try and perspective warp it a little bit. That's not too bad, but at the top, we don't have to worry about the top too much. We're probably going to cut off the top. But this kind of patterning down here, we just want to make sure that it's kind of close-ish. And then let's see if we can get this to match now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try gradient. Let's take the darkest, maybe it's here, and then we'll take the lightest over here and see if we can get it to match. Oops, wrong sort of gradient. We want this one. It's a little better, but it's not exactly what we want. So I think what we're going to have to end up doing now is we're going to have to do some airbrushing by hand. So I'm just going to take a big, that's too small, a big kind of thing here, and let's see if we can polish it in. I think this down here is a little more yellow than the rest of the wall. So like I said, this is going to reduce down so we don't have to go too crazy with it. It would be nice if we could just have, you know, an exact match right away, but we don't. So we'll just do, you know, kind of our best here. This side's not looking too bad. All right. So now that we've got that area here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to feather the edges so it's not so apparent. We did overreach here, which is actually great because then we can kind of feather these edges in so then we can make it less apparent as to where we did the patching. So let's go ahead and do the feathering on the edges. Again, we're going to do airbrush tool, and I'm just going to go up with it. So now let me get a smaller one. Alright, so that's probably about the best that we're going to get just with this. So now we can go ahead and see if we can put in our panels here, the reduced size panels. So we have this here. I just need to trim down these edges. So again, we're gonna airbrush tool. I think I'm gonna just use a fine airbrush tool for that one, just so we don't lose this shadow in the background. So I think I'm gonna go like that. I'm also gonna trim up this here. I'm gonna fade it so it doesn't look so apparent that we did that. But I have to do some reorganizing on the layers first because right now it's just going through to the background. So I'm gonna trim these right down to their edges, so I'm just gonna use the polygonal lasso tool. That's one. Let's get the other. Alright, so now once we fade these out here towards the end, this should look better. And the reason we do this, and it looks so much better, is because of the way that the lighting hits. You can see that it's lighter here. So if you don't do that and you don't pay attention to the lighting, you're gonna just have seams. Where's my cursor? What I'm doing right now is I'm just putting another darker gradient over this area, so then I don't have to move around my layers. Now, if you notice here, I have this now. Now, what happened here was that the color was different. So let's go ahead and sample that and see if we can get the color better. That's better. And now we'll feather that too. Feather both of these. So that's better. So now we need to get the air conditioning unit off the wall. Let's see. So I didn't grab that at the beginning, so I'm going to bring this forward, our original, to the top, and then I'm going to grab the air conditioning unit off of the wall. This looks like it might have been a Photoshop job to begin with. So this has like the shadow that's coming down too, so I'm gonna have to do something with that. But for now, we can just do this, and we can bring it down to, yeah, I guess that, I mean, realistically, this is not where your air conditioning unit would be, your heat pump or mini split or whatever it is. Like it would be way up higher on the wall, but just for purpose of demonstration, this is where we're moving it. So I'm gonna feather around here. So we can keep that shadow and I don't have to mess with that shadow any. And then I'm gonna feather all around here. I'm gonna feather the bottom. I might cut this pretty close to the edge because this is pretty consistently darker. It's a lot darker than it is higher up on the wall. Or lower on the wall, I should say. Because this is going to give us a weird shadow. It's going to have like a weird like little shadowy effect if we don't cut it close enough. I'm just doing this with my mouse. I would normally do this, you know, if I was gonna do a really in-depth, detailed version of this, I would probably bust out my tablet pen and kind of go in here and really put some effort into making sure everything, you know, like the lines all match up and stuff. But for this purpose, I think this will work out well enough for them. So we have that, and then we also need that drop shadow. So let me go ahead and add the shadow here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, I think it was like this direction. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a little gradient of this color in this direction. And then I will blur this. Cross your fingers. I don't corrupt the entire thing with the Gaussian blur because sometimes that does happen. So that looks pretty good. Put it on multiply, and then we're going to reduce it down a bunch. And then we have to, obviously we have some overspray here, so we just have to reduce the overspray. And then I did want this to kind of fade a little bit more, so I'm gonna just do a little couple clicky clicks. And there we go. So it's further down on the wall now. Hopefully this should work for their particular purposes. Hopefully, you know, you won't see too much of the patterning that we were a little lazy with, just putting in here. But I might go in and, you know, kind of clean up a couple areas. I can see some seams, like in here and in here. But it should probably when it reduces down, because when you reduce something in Photoshop, it kind of uses an algorithm to basically re-encode. So it does look a little bit different than what it looks like when you're like zooming in and out and scrubbing in and out. So this should be perfectly fine for their particular uses. Um, yeah, that's it.